Tech Bros. I'm sorry you had to wait a whole 25 minutes to talk about AI, but we're back into AI, dude. All right, let's talk about how AI is going to make everything better, and there's literally no downside, right?
I can't think of any.
Okay, so I think there is an important premise to start with, which is that one-on-one tutoring of a student is shown to be vastly more effective. And there's been a lot of studies by this. I found one from the University of Chicago. But the difference between having a teacher in front of a group of people who is giving the same lecture and the same broad lesson to everybody versus a one-on-one tutor is massive difference. And we all know this, right?
Yep,
That's
100%.
why rich people pay for tutors for their kids, and then it always makes them do way better in school, right? So if we agree with that premise, which has been around and known for decades and decades and decades, if we could transform our education system to be more like a one-on-one tutor experience, that could have incredible benefits for kids. So there are now studies going on with basically people using AI LLMs to have an AI tutor, essentially. So this is in early stages. These are going to get way better, but even there's some studies in Nigeria and Ghana. One of them is crazy. In Nigeria, they had students in a 6-week program. For 1 hour a day after school, they talked to this LLM chatbot to help them learn English. And they tested that at the end. The 6 weeks was equivalent to 2 years of typical learning. That is how big of a difference having a tailored experience was. They did math in Ghana. Kids were given an hour of this AI math tutor on WhatsApp. And over 8 months of doing this, 1 hour a day, it was an extra year of learning. Like, these are crazy gains when you can tailor education to a specific person. So Alpha School, I only found out about this recently. It's this school in the US. There's like 9 campuses, something like that. And there's some like prominent tech people whose like kids are in these things. Their premise for their school is there are 2 hours a day of actual schooling.
2 hours a day of don't be a beta. Learn how to not be a
beta.
Yeah, where you
crush a brew.
You sling dick. You crush your brew. You smoke that marijuana. They know what Alpha School.
Yeah, you don't know shit about weed, Aiden. You're gonna smoke fucking.
Look at Lulu here, 10 years old. She shows up every day. She hits the bong. She fucking goes. She watches the LeBron
She's a
videos.
fucking alpha, and you don't get that.
You're right.
You don't get that.
She's an alpha. So this school, their premise is you have 2 hours a day. That's it. Of really tailored learning. Their teachers are no longer considered teachers. They are guides. And their goal is to be these one-on-one mentors with each student, which are offering support and guidance and motivation for the student to work with this AI tutor to have really tailored education to them. And the testimonies from kids are like this one. I don't have to stick to just second grade. I can learn at 3rd and 4th grade content too, right? Like, kids can go at their own rate for all these different topics. And then the rest of the day, they spend doing all of these whatever activities they're interested in. So they can like try to run their own business, or they do some sort of outdoor activity or pottery or whatever they feel like, whatever's going to make them the biggest alpha. So this is interesting. I only learned about this recently, but apparently the results of this are insane. Like the scoring that these kids are doing is vastly higher on average than a traditionally educated kid in the Texas region. And it's wild to think that like 2 hours, and I imagine myself in school, and like how much of schooling was me just forcing myself through this slog. And if it was tailored to me, like now I learn at like 100 times the rate I used to because I tailor everything to my interests and largely use AI to help me do that. And I'm very optimistic about us potentially transforming education that is separate from phones, which I don't think kids should have in school.
So I want to say, I just want to say, I have used this a lot. I mean, I was doing it before,
Alpha
but
school?
No, I don't go. I'm actually not.
You went to Alpha School?
I'm actually in
What
beta
year did
school.
you graduate, bro?
I'm in beta school. It's different. I sadly talked
What's
to
it like once you broke out of the Matrix?
Dude.
But you sort of put me onto this, and I've been doing it more, and it works. It legitimately. I'll put in an article that I want to talk about on stream. I'll have it summarize the whole thing, but not summarize it. I'll have it quiz me. So I'll like read the article, and then I'll put it in the thing, and I'm like, hey, just check my knowledge. And if you do the voice mode, like I have a conversation about the article, and if I'm like, this is my takeaway, they're like, well, actually, it'll like correct me, or like it's like a really smart person I'm talking to that knows what I'm trying to learn and just gives me feedback. I mean, I can actually see what you're talking about. I've tried it firsthand, and it does work. And that way, when I go live and someone asks me that question, I've had this, like I'm prepared for it in a way that I couldn't have done just by myself reading. Like it does, there is potential there.
The
100%.
rate at which I've learned history, programming a new language, like learning Japanese, are all easily 10 times the rate at which I used to learn things 10 years ago using AI tools.
It's that feedback.
Yeah.
It is wild. And it's not just feedback, it's that it's custom tailored to you, right? Imagine a teacher who's explaining the article to you, but there's 30 people who all have their own questions, and you get lost
it's like
in
what I'm lost on, I get an immediate answer.
Right. And you can tailor it to you. I mean, imagine again, kids who are like my teacher friend was saying, like, kids don't seem to be as motivated nowadays. And what I would hope is that AI tools or whatever modern education tools we use, whether it's AI or not, can be tailored so this kid who's terrible at focusing on math, it can be rephrased in some sort of game that's related to Fortnite or their favorite characters or a weird like movie thing in a way that actually gets their attention, right? At a level that matches their specific type of
their
learning.
skill level and works up from there.
Have you, Doug, have you seen The Wire?
Yes.
Dude. Okay, I don't know if you know, Aiden can't go 15 minutes in real life without bringing up The Wire. He forces it into every conversation.
It's because it's a great
and
show.
We've made it 2 whole episodes, I thought, without this problem, and now it's back.
It's a great show.
Okay.
But you might remember, you've seen The Wire, have you not?
Yeah, I've seen The Wire.
You know the beginning?
I've seen it through your description of every line.
The famous scene at the beginning of season 4 when Snoop is buying the nail gun in the store. And the whole thing is that like Snoop, you know, had Snoop grown up in maybe a better environment, is actually a very intelligent person who knows what they need, knows how to ask questions, and has like a very in-depth conversation of like how I specifically need this type of tool that would be best suited to hide the bodies in vacant buildings.
They're buying anything to hide dead bodies. But
and I this is a silly example of I do think like catering like knowledge and learning to specific situations that best fit like the kids so that they best understand them is totally the way to go. Even like just having individual time is so important. Like I remember when I was a younger kid in like 5th grade, and I think there was a brief period of time where I went to a private school, and in that school there was like a subset of people within the class that they pulled out of class to like work on basically like the next grade's worth of material because we already knew the existing material. We were nerds.
Okay.
So, but at public schools, those opportunities were like few and far between, at least at US public schools, right? And like I said, when you look at public education in a lot of other countries, they start to take these more like refined approaches to different students so that they're working on something that they are more invested in. I think this is kind of awesome in that sense. Like cool. If you're doing this through in a classroom that is like deployed by the teacher or the school rather than like at the kids like phones at an individual level.
Right.
I think this is really cool because I think at least if you took this all out of the world of like technology and you just go back far enough in time, I think, again, these were the same conversations about education that people are having like 10, 20, 30 years ago about how to help students succeed. And this is like a tool that allows that to happen.
I want to talk a little about the negative sides of AI, though, and it's not this.
Yeah.
In education. And I've been hearing this all over. There's a good article about it, but also I've talked to I had my chat like come up and give some stories. And the level of cheating, especially in college level courses right now with ChatGPT is rampant.
Yes.
It is. Yeah, it is viral. I mean,
so you're saying they're breaking out of the psychic prison?
I mean, and maybe that means the whole system is just it doesn't work in this era.
Right.
But like the structure of it is still there, and it's teetering. It's not. Teachers are frustrated. They're grading like 80% ChatGPT papers. They know the student did put no time into, and the students are also reporting that like, okay, so let's say you're a student and you want to try hard. Well, you're worried that if you don't use AI to cheat, you're going to fall behind this kid that does. And your grade's worse.
If you're in college, you're literally suffering because of the curve.
Right.
Yeah, there's a curve. And then also, like, you hear the stories of like people graduating. It's a tough time now to find, if you get bad grades, you're worried you're going to graduate and not be. So you're like almost incentivized hard to cheat because the thing can write better than you on a lot of things.
Right.
So now it's like this race to the bottom where everyone is cheating at all times. Like, it's getting exponential. And now they're going into job interviews and they're cheating in those. Like they're having the AI auto listen to the job question and then just reading the. I mean, it's breaking the whole system. It's breaking like every way of measuring human ability and talent and that structure that existed before. And I don't have the answer, but like that is a downside of AI that's coming really quickly.
Yes.
Well, I think this is a longer term, strong, positive.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, no, that's my. I'm not gonna pretend like no, AI is straight up destroying our current education system, like straight up. And I think there's a world where we can go, okay, long term, this like things like this alpha school could be really positive. I have an education from one of the best computer science schools in the country and a computer science degree from it. And I think that education quality was pretty bad overall. And I am not heartbroken if the fairly shitty way of having us learn and test our learning knowledge, which had almost no correspondence to who went on to actually be successful and make an impact in the world. I'm not that heartbroken if that system fails. I'm not that heartbroken if Professor Brian Harvey can't fucking grade our scheme projects as well anymore.
Brian
I don't give
Harvey
a shit.
Getting shade 12 years later.
Yeah. Well, no, he's got this famous video about not cheating. And he's right morally. Like obviously morally I'm not supportive of cheating or anything, but the current structure is fucked for sure. And I think what I hope and think is and will happen is that we can push it towards these really tailored experiences. But it's not, I don't like the paradigm of like all the kids go to high school and then they take the SAT and that number is how smart you are. It's like that shit is going to end.
Yeah.
That's going to end. It's going to be you are specialized in certain things and you can pursue those things with a lot of like individual focus.
I think this actually comes back to the first episode when we were talking about AI in a way, but this is hitting education, I would say, sooner or more heavily than
faster.
the way it's hitting the job market.
It's like a freight train.
It's the same issue when we were talking about how, well, what is the consequences of like AI on the future of the way we work, right? And the big consequence is like, well, AI is going to replace all these jobs, but if those people can't move to new jobs because AI is also capable of replacing those jobs, then there's this catastrophic effect on the way like society is structured right now.
Yeah.
But this is the same situation. It's like new tool is not like complementary to the way education is currently structured.
Or has been done for decades.
Yeah.
I mean, for a long time.
But the deconstruction is happening already. So I think the answer, like when I think about what I fucking learned in business school is basically nothing.
You went to business school?
Yeah.
Oh, dope. Okay.
I went to business school and I studied finance and I studied marketing.
Damn.
Based.
And almost nothing of what I learned is applicable or
business
helpful
school,
in my life. Except for, and all of the experience that I gained by being in university was I leveraged a lot of university resources to like start a business and run esports events.
Yeah, doing actual things is the only way to learn.
By like running that company, and I don't like regret going to college for those reasons. Like I did learn a lot through those ways, and there were exceptions in my classes where I learned about stuff that I thought was really interesting. But overall, like I didn't take that much away from it. And this like tailored
and also,
education
now it's
experience,
more expensive.
Yeah.
For kids nowadays, it makes no sense. For the average young person going to college right now, it's like the price has only gone up.
Yeah.
The quality is going down. Everyone's cheating. Like the quality of your degree means less because there's so many false positives people are cheating through. It's like people don't even like it's this really tough time to be figuring out what the fuck to do. I mean, I don't envy people who are younger. People who are like 18 right now. It's like insane. I'm really learning more about it by talking to some of them. And it's like, I feel like in 10 years, maybe we figured some of this out and they're having good, but I feel like this window is so bad. This window sucks.
Yeah. I again, don't want to downplay that.
Yeah.
This window
and they
sucks.
have parents like telling them,
really
go just
hard.
do this or what, like parents that don't understand how much it's changed. I don't know. It's just interesting, man.
I think this specific use case is really cool. Like to me, if this is like, I think about the language learning example you gave, like you have been learning Japanese. That's how Ludwig's been studying Japanese. And in the time that he said he's been using ChatGPT, it is from my outside perspective as somebody who knows like a little Japanese, like very little, from studying it in college is, oh, wow, he's improved a lot in the period of time that he's been using that instead. And I think there is really cool use cases of it. Because as somebody who's from that first episode, the AI scrutiner, if you will, I here to scrutinize. And like, I do think the cheating epidemic right now is terrible. Like the situation is literally devolving before us. I'm really excited about something like this.
Have you heard the Steve Jobs quote? This is a long time ago. It's like him talking about the future. And he's like, Alexander the Great learned everything he knew from Aristotle. Aristotle was like his private tutor. And he's like, one day we'll be able to put all of Aristotle's teachings into a computer and create a digital Aristotle that can be anyone's tutor. And I thought that was really, I mean, first of all, it's incredible foresight for 84 when he said it or whatever. But like, there is something to that of a kid having the compounding knowledge of the world privately for whatever, like, whatever you're interested in, if it's Japanese or whatever. Like that is cool. I do see that being a positive thing once it can get figured out, once society adapts to it in a way. But
yes. That's what I said in the first episode. New technology, it's destructive at first, and then you start getting the gains. And we are currently in the destruction phase, and it's going to be hard and scary and terrible. And again, to repeat myself, I am not saying the terrible stuff isn't happening or won't happen, but I just want and hope that people can also acknowledge how much good there is down the road, and then hopefully we try to maximize that, minimize downside. That's, but it's fucked right now for sure.
It's just, I mean, if you're 18 or you're like,
no, it's bad.
High school and COVID, and now you're dealing with cheating in college.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad.
Well,
you're just getting fucked.
I'm trying to reach for like what might be like what are more negatives, or like what is the potential argument to this use case specifically. And if I was a teacher, I would be seeing this and be one, maybe a little insecure about my job and be like, is this the process of me like getting replaced?
For sure.
What place do I have in this system now? Does a teacher turn from a person that stands in front of a classroom and teaches like a group of 30, 40 kids into somebody that's basically like an AI manager? And
maybe an emotional support or someone who can handle the human
description
side.
they have is pretty decent. So it's at Alpha School, teachers shift from traditional roles like grading and writing lesson plans to supporting students' emotional and motivational needs and teaching life skills. Just like, I mean, that's a very optimistic description, but in theory, like, and those are the most impactful teachers that I had, is not the ones who wrote really good lesson plans. It's one that really tailored to me.
To you,
right?
Yeah. I will say I think it's really important for there to still be like guidance and structure from the school, and that because when I was in high school, I had this class I was a part of that was you could get into instead of English, and it was called, this is out of public school too, it was called RISE. I forget what it stood for. But the idea was you had the autonomy within that class to kind of decide whatever you wanted to work on. And the dramatically, I would say, good examples of how that time was used was one girl that graduated a few years before me, worked really hard, opened like a coffee business using the time that she was in that class. And then she got into like an Ivy League school. And there was other examples of people in that class becoming really successful. I think I struggled a bit more in that environment. Like, even though I was a really successful student at that age, I fucked off. Like, I spent like half of that. That's what I would have done. I spent half of that first year finding YouTube music and learning how to like, I basically spent a bunch of time learning how to pirate music at school because I couldn't do it at the computer at home.
That's alpha right there.
And
it's not to say that like program didn't have any use, but I feel like that was supposed to be this opportunity for me to grow and succeed in a direction that I couldn't in a normal class. And I think that opportunity is really important, but I could have used a little more guidance.
Yeah, a little more structure, a little more guidance, especially for some kids. That makes sense.